Tony says you have to reveal his identity.
If I were to let anyone know the real Tony, I would forfeit my life.
If Fred goes down, my life's forfeit as well.
If you shoot Zubby, I'm gonna have to shoot you.
This is what you get when you mess with cocaine.
Fucking hell, this shit's getting convoluted.
I'm taking cover. I can't handle this right now. This is too much.
Well, this just went to Shitsville on the third wagon. Oh, the humanity. Oh, the madness. What are we gonna do? Why wasn't Fred shot? Oh God, the plot holes.
Is it safe? Is everyone dead? Oh God!
Calm the fuck down. Those guns don't fire conventional bullets. What do you think I am, a schmuck? No, it's bad for business to have people constantly dying due to bullshit like this. You see, what they do is they actually fire these little pellets that put people to sleep, and then they forget about what had just happened when they woke up. Bada bing, bada boom.
Oh, you know, that's surprisingly smart thinking for such a ridiculous gang.
Look, since it's just me and you, I can drop the stupid tough boy attitude, and I can just tell you, my friend.
Tell me what?
Well, you remember that band you used to be a part of called Ocean Boys or something?
Okay, let me correct you on that. It was actually called Ocean Void.
Yeah, Ocean's Void.
Now you're just undermining the brilliance of the name of that band. It was a long, strenuous process for us to come up with that name. And there's a deep, dark meaning.
Okay, it's Ocean Void. Whatever, stupid, pretentious bullshit name. Are you gonna let me get to the point, or are you gonna keep arguing about how brilliant the name is?
Okay, alright, fine. Continue.
Well, as it turns out, Tony was actually Zune, your ex-guitarist from that band. And for some bizarre reason, he just lost interest in wanting to work with you. And I guess this was just his vague, weird, passive-aggressive way of telling you.
Wow. I knew I recognized his mannerisms and flowing hand gestures. Was that a Russian accent he was using?
Look, I'm really sorry that it had to come out to this. I'm a very generous Boyd. Maybe I could make it up to you by letting you tell you a little stupid story about those guys that you used to be in a band with.
Oh, come on. Nobody wants to hear that, Fred. Come on. This was gonna come up one way or another, and you might as well tell the story. It's not like it's the most boring thing in the world to tell. I guess you're right. Fine. I don't just do this review show for shits and giggles. And I don't do it to necessarily try to make myself sound smarter than everyone. And when I review bands, I don't just see a band that created something great or something awful. I see a band that worked together. I hear a story and I relate to it. And in a lot of ways, I see myself in it. Because I've been there before. And it involved a lot of pain and a lot of joy at the same time. And I guess this is where it comes up. This is the story of my involvement with the band Ocean Void.
The year was 2011. I was in my second year of music education at a local community college. There, I met the guy who would eventually become my bassist, who was a friend of a friend that I had at the time. I heard he was in a local band himself, so we talked about jamming and we got together and wrote some sketches of songs, at least the most that you can do with just a bassist and a vocalist. Eventually, we recruited a guitarist named Eli, a second guitarist who went by the name Zune because his name was the same as the bassist's name, and a drummer named Max who we met off of Craigslist. We jammed for several months, trying our best to write songs. I was in many choirs and had years and years of classical vocal training behind me, but absolutely no experience as a lead vocalist for a band. And let me tell you, those are two completely different worlds right there. As you can imagine, I had a lot of growing pains trying to get into this. And while my fellow bandmates had struggles and growing pains of their own, I seem to have held on to mine for a lot longer. In the beginning, my voice sounded like utter shit. Early performances left me struggling to hear my own voice. The sound that we were shooting for is called shoegazing, which is a genre that utilizes effects pedals, leaving performers often staring at their own shoes. In order to let effects be heard, the guitarist often plays at extremely loud volumes. My intonation was really flat, but the fact that I couldn't hear my own voice just made it all the worse. As you just heard, it was pretty ugly. But with each performance, at least I felt like I was getting a little bit better and a little bit more confident. Inner band relations were always a bit rocky with us. And if I'm going to be honest, my behavior wasn't always agreeable. As a matter of fact, I would go as far as to say some of the things I did could be considered downright reprehensible by some people. I would often argue with bandmates, especially Eli, who was also my roommate, so we got very little time away from each other, which didn't help things at all. It wouldn't be uncommon to hear yelling and slamming. At one point, I did the incredibly immature thing of throwing a microphone that didn't even belong to me against the ground, almost breaking it. You see, all throughout my life, including now, I've had a terrible temper problem, and the constant creative differences made it even worse. It's something that I've only recently learned to gain control over. Our performances got progressively better. Each one of us made improvements as musicians as time went on. Our bassist's father owned a recording studio, so we were able to make demos, which is part of the background music that you're hearing. And yes, even here, my vocals are incredibly flat and needed a lot of work. I'm so numb, can't feel my thumbs fiddling. Within a few months, it started to become less and less of an issue, but my temper just stayed constant. We did a show where I dressed up as Ziggy Stardust, and we did a set of David Bowie cover songs, which I thought was a lot of fun. However, setting up this show, just like setting up every other show, proved to be just constant sets of arguments about what we were actually going to do. And I struggled continuously to have control over this band, which is not the way it's supposed to be. A band is supposed to be a collaborative effort. This was never the Randy McNeely solo project. I had my head shoved so far up my own ass that most of the songs I had written were actually about my ex-girlfriend. I had this really pretentious idea that we could do this concept album about breakups, but the thing is that we were still in the beginning phases, and we were still trying to figure out exactly what Ocean Void was going to sound like. However, for the Bowie set, it seemed that I had practiced enough to the point where my voice, for the most part, stayed on pitch. And our next show was to open for our now internationally famous shoegazing band called Whir at a local coffee house called Brood. This was a big deal for us, and it got us a lot of positive attention. And at the end of the show, I actually remember a couple of audience members telling me that for once my voice sounded much more on pitch, and that I had gotten better and my confidence in the band had started to go up. I started to feel a lot more comfortable on stage, and the next show I was in, I got completely into it and had a blast. By the time March of 2013 rolled around, I thought things were looking up. However, 3 of my bandmates thought that couldn't be farther from the truth. On April 2nd, 2013, a date that for some reason just sticks in my mind, we were set to rehearse, but for some odd reason, they decided to pull an impromptu band meeting. I found it especially odd when the bassist decided he wanted nothing to do with it. We went to a local coffee house and we sat down, just me, Eli, Max, and Zoom. And within seconds, Eli said bluntly that I was being kicked out. I constantly begged to be given a second chance, but because of my, at least in their perception, lack of improvement, and my still terrible demeanor and behavior, there was no way I could talk them out of it. I was gone. I went home feeling emotionally drained and incredibly upset. This was my dream ever since I was a teenager, and it was taken from me. Or, if you choose to look at it in a certain way, my actions ended up being the thing that got it taken away from me. For the first time in my life, I actually cried myself to sleep. I felt worthless and pathetic. I had nothing going for me. I had no job, no relationship, and virtually no life after this. I secluded myself from society and just spent all my time working at menial jobs and on the internet. It was around this time I started picking up incredibly creepy behaviors that chased off friends and family. I lost one of the best friends I ever had around this time because I started developing feelings for her because I wasn't getting out much. Rather than confront the feelings in a mature fashion, I handled it extremely poorly. Eventually, she wanted nothing to do with me, and neither did anyone else. Honestly, I can't blame them. At the time, I had become an unbearable human being who didn't know how to cope with life problems. One day, out of incredible confusion, I called a friend of mine I hadn't spoken to in years named Alan. He was an old childhood friend of mine, and due to some habits he picked up, we parted ways. However, I still missed him, and something about me just wanted to reach out to my past and experience something good again. He didn't answer when I first called, but eventually he called back. We started hanging out again and we forgave each other for what had happened. Eventually, he brought up the review show I wanted to start. We agreed to start working together on it, but it was a slow process. Alan wasn't exactly the most enthusiastic music listener. He's more of a video game guy, but we worked together for a script on the System of a Down video regardless. The script looks completely different than the episode that finally came to be. Alan has a very distinct sense of humor, and I wanted to use that, but he just couldn't be motivated to be in the video. Eventually, Alan dropped out of the project because he felt like he just wasn't the best match. Within a few months, I met Jordan Dansdale, and the rest is history.
Ocean Void cycled through 2 more vocalists before eventually breaking up at the end of last month, November 2015. And it just occurred to me that it's like the end of a chapter of my life, and I know I wasn't part of the band for its last 2 years, but I just wanted something I started to have been successful on some level, and I feel like I'm a little broken inside because of it, and I feel almost ashamed because me and that bassist I was talking about, we became really good friends, and I made a lot of really good friends around that time, and now they're all gone because of petty bullshit, is what it virtually comes down to. I feel like I'm at the age of 25, all I do is just review music, and all I've done is be in a band. I have nothing to show for it, and I feel like nothing. I just ask myself, what's the point? What the hell is the point?
If I may interject, fuck you for thinking that.
Wait, what?
Take some pride in what you did. I know that what happened hurt you, And I know you're incredibly confused, but be happy with the time you spent doing what you did. Nothing is more important in life than what you do. Nothing that you say will ever mean as much as the things that you do. If there's anything that you have to take pride in, it's the positive things you do.
But what I did and what I currently do are both meaningless.
According to you and how you're saying it, yes, but everything everyone does would be meaningless if you constantly use that logic. You choose how you feel about your life. You choose how to feel about what you do. Nothing anybody else says has to matter. Things change, friends come and go, and shit will happen to you. But no matter what, you must keep going. You must keep moving forward. I don't care if people cut off your fucking legs and gouge out your eyes. Crawl yourself to your goddamn goal, get there, and claim yourself a fucking victor.
But I'm nothing but a failure, Fred.
You are only seeing it as a failure because you choose to see it as one. The only true failure in life is the failure to have ever acted at all. Not everyone can say that they were in a band. Not everyone can say that they've dedicated hours and hours of their lives into a review show with comedic skits. I look around these days and I see people pretending to do shit with their lives. People pretending that what they do actually matters. Or even worse, people who sit around and waste their time doing absolutely nothing. At least you can say you've done these things. At least you can say you took joy in doing these things. But then again, what do I know? I'm just some stupid, stereotypical Italian parrot who runs an exercise equipment gang in the middle of Tucson, fucking Arizona.
You know what? You're right.
It may not have ended in the best way that it possibly could. It may have been a complete nightmare having to deal with the stress afterwards. But now that it's been 2 years, I can safely look back on this and say that I'm glad that I did what I did. I was happy that I got to experience something that not a lot of other people got to do. And I look back on these shows, and while my voice sounds incredibly flat, I might actually find myself dancing along to the music or banging my head to it. And while other people may not find it their jam, you know what? I like what I did. And while these people will probably never be my friends again, I've learned to accept that and be okay with it.
Let me just say one more thing. The start of this new year, think about a time in your life, maybe not the most miserable time of your life, but maybe a really rough time that nothing was all that great and you were sad about something, or something that didn't end all that well. Try to really think back about those moments and remember that it's never all bad. There's always something good happening. It only takes a very extreme circumstance for there to be no joy to be felt in your life. And just remember and hold on to those positive things. It doesn't matter how badly it ended, because at the end, memories are all you really have to hold on to. And if you don't have any happy memories, you're going to be very miserable.
I look back on all the good times we had together, and I barely ever think about the way that I used to act. Really, it's some sort of magical feeling, and I'm very glad I've gotten over it.
Smile. And look forward to the future, other cliches. I'm Randy the Shoegazer, and I'll see you guys next season. Thank you for watching.
Right there! That's the attitude you gotta have. Fuck yeah! Alright! Other stereotypical catchphrases and stuff. Okay, is the episode over yet? Can I stop talking? Okay, you're off camera, but did we end this properly? I don't even know. Ladies and gentlemen, have a happy New Year, happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, happy Easter, whatever people celebrate these days around this time of year. Catch you later.